are now in the deep end of horror.
And I will see the life run out of you.
Hugsy Viola and Marc of Horror here to welcome you back to the year 1990. And yes, the 90s were not as good as the 80s in terms of horror output, but they had some really good movies. And for once, I am actually going to make an executive decision and take a semi-horror film out of the running. I've put some in where people have gone, that's not horror. This one is Ghost. It's supernatural, it features some scary ghosts, but that's not what the film is about. The film is really just a romance between Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, and it's a very entertaining film, but it's not...
I think of it as a romance between Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg. What did I miss?
Ah, see? But it's still a romance and not a horror film, so we're not going to be including it here. Still, you should go see it if you haven't seen it. It's a very entertaining film. Coming in at number 10, The Exorcist 3. I have here Scream Factory's Collector's Edition of Exorcist 3, and I heartily recommend that you get this because Exorcist 3 has one of the scariest scenes in horror history. And it's often overlooked because it didn't do very well, and it came after Exorcist 2, which was just terrible. Exorcist 3, if you can get the Scream Factory Collector's Edition, get it and watch the movie Legion, which was the original Exorcist 3, and then they decided that, hey, this movie doesn't have any actual exorcisms, so they kind of cut half of the movie out and then added a whole bunch of scenes with Nicole Williamson, who's great, but doesn't really belong in the film. The film Legion is actually much, much better. The other reason they didn't like it is the ending is a bit anticlimactic. I won't go into that. But if you can see it as Legion instead of seeing it as Exorcist 3. But the really scary scene is in both versions. Exorcist 3.
"17 years ago, an extraordinary motion picture touched our most profound, nameless fears. Do you dare walk these steps again? Death, be not proud, nor canst thou kill me. Satan grows stronger.
You believe in possession, Father?
He has found a haven.
Come to take a little blood from you, Father.
He has taken possession.
The boy had been crucified.
His web widens.
I've just never seen anything like this in 20 years.
Inside this cell,
The killer drove an ingot into each of his eyes and cut off his head.
inside a man.
Who are you?
I am no one. A man we thought had died 17 years ago.
He is inside with us! He will never get away!
Save your servant. Trust in God.
This time you're going to lose.
The real terror is back. George C. Scott in William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist 3.
Coming in at number 9 is an M. Night Shyamalan film before M. Night Shyamalan was making films. It's not really his, but Jacob's Ladder, if it was made now, he would be the one who made it. It's an Adrian Lyne film from the director of Fatal Attraction. It's nothing like Fatal Attraction. It stars Tim Robbins, and is a really good mystery, but does fall squarely in the horror category. Jacob's Ladder. Poor little Andy Barclay. He comes in at number 8 with Child's Play 2. His mom is nowhere to be seen. The helpful police detective is gone, and now he's in a foster home. I don't know how he's going to get away from Chucky, but it is still pretty entertaining and has yet to devolve into comedy. Child's Play 2.
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
How's it hanging, Phil?
Child's Play 2. He's the original. He'll take your breath away. This fall, Chucky rules.
Did you miss me, Andy? I sure missed you.
Child's Play 2. Keep an eye out for it.
Well, in number 7, we exchange real jungles for the urban jungle. Predator 2, starring Danny Glover and Bill Paxton. Predator 2 is fun. It's nowhere near the film that Predator was. They took a lot of nice ideas from Dark Horse Comics' Concrete Jungle, Predator Concrete Jungle, and then dropped a lot of parts that they didn't want for some reason. So Predator 2 is entertaining. It's mostly noteworthy at the time for hinting at the fact that the Predator and Alien universes are linked, because you do get to see an alien skull on the Predator ship at one point. Predator 2.
Los Angeles, 1997. It's the hottest summer on record. Pollution is choking the city. The gangs control the streets.
It has not been a nice day!
As bad as things are, they're about to get worse. Much worse.
Whoever killed him is gonna pay. I'm gonna finish it.
It has almost no weight.
But it cuts like steel.
Incredible.
Whoever did this took out 4 men armed with machine guns by hand.
You don't know what you're dealing with. Otherworld life forms, drawn by heat and conflict. He's on safari. Lions, tigers, the bears. Oh my.
Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Reuben Blades, Maria Conchita Alonso, Bill Paxton. Predator 2. He's in town with a few days to kill this Thanksgiving.
In 6th place, we have Sam Raimi's Darkman film. A good dry run for his work on the Spider-Man series, and you'll see Ted Raimi pop up in here. Darkman.
Who
No foolish heroics, if you please.
is Darkman? They destroyed everything he had, all that he loved, everything that he was. Now, Crime has a new enemy, and justice has a brand new face.
I was afraid that you wouldn't want me anymore.
Of course I still want you.
The good news is that I know who's behind our little troubles of late. Finish it.
He has the power to look like any man,
These two are both sons of witches!
but he is unlike any man.
I gotta tell you something about me.
He's a cockroach. You think you kill him? And he pops up someplace else.
In the darkest hour,
Julie, who's the real monster here?
there's a light that shines on every human being. But one. From director Sam Raimi, Dark Man.
Fifth place goes to yet another sequel, Gremlins 2. While I tend to blame Gremlins for a spike in creature feature movies that I didn't particularly care for, like Ghoulies and Critters and Munchkins and so on and so forth, I had calmed down by the time Gremlins 2 had come out. And Gremlins 2 is more like a live-action Looney Tunes film. I really do enjoy both films. Joe Dante is just fabulous. And number 2 actually has horror icon Christopher Lee in a guest starring role. Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
Remember the last time? We told you not to feed them after midnight. We told you to keep them away from the light. And the most important warning of all, we told you to never, ever get them wet. You didn't listen.
They're mutating.
Sir, is the building on fire?
No, that's a false alarm.
Are you trying to panic New York City?
Absolutely not. So the monsters are real? I didn't say that.
Gremlins 2. The New Batch.
Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized.
Well, some of you on here know how long-suffering my wife is. And she always attempts to like the things that I like because you do that as a spouse. I have been to uncounted craft fairs. She, in her part, has attempted many horror movies, and we actually went to see this horror movie twice in the theater. And she's shaking her head and making no, no, no noises and covering her ears because that film is, in fact, Arachnophobia, and we lasted about 10 minutes each time before we had to walk out of the theater and go home because she just couldn't do it. Arachnophobia, as long as you don't have the arachnophobia, which she does, this is a very entertaining film. Arachnophobia. Third place is more of a fantasy than horror, but it involves a lot of elements of horror, and that is Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. And if we can have one icon on the list, Christopher Lee, how about another one? Vincent Price guest stars in this. Johnny Depp is, of course, the star here, and this is before his Captain Jack Sparrow face, so he actually creates a unique character for this movie and doesn't just copy some mannerisms onto another movie. This is a wonderful performance by him, and Winona Ryder, Diane Wiest, Anthony Michael Hall, Kathy Baker, and Alan Arkin are in it. And music, of course, is by Danny Elfman, as it always is for Tim Burton's films, and it's a good music score. Edward Scissorhands.
I'm as harmless as cherry pump. Those are your hands? Those are your hands. I think you should just come home with me.
Joyce, I just saw this strange guy driving with Peg.
Did you get a good look at it?
Hi! Scissors.
Whoa! Heck of a handshake you got there, Ed.
Kim, this is Edward, who's gonna live with us.
Well, this must be quite a change for you, right, Ed?
Those things are cool. Can I bring him to show and tell on Monday?
He's a highly imaginative character. It seems clear that his awareness of what we call reality is radically underdeveloped.
Eddie, you take my very breath away. Do you have a girlfriend?
Is there some special lady in your life?
Hey! Call the doctor. He skewered Kim.
Just a scratch. The power of Satan is in him. I can feel it.
Drop your weapon!
All along, I felt in my gut there was something wrong with him.
From Tim Burton comes the most incredible tale of a most unusual character. Edward Scissorhands.
Hold me. I can't.
Well, 1990, besides having two old icons return for films, also had two incredible scenes of horror that no one forgets once they've seen them. The first was in Exorcist III. The second one is in this film, the return of Stephen King to our list. Stephen King's Misery. And of course, my wife is shuddering at the remembrance of the particular scene that we're discussing. Scream Factory's Collector's Edition has a wonderful picture quality, but there is a cheap Blu-ray version, I believe, that is still available if you can't afford the collector's version. It's directed by Rob Reiner and screenplay by William Goldman. And it's just an amazing film, and Kathy Bates definitely deserved the Academy Award for this one. But while she did, James Caan is no slouch in this. You really feel for his character. And in addition to that, Richard Farnsworth and Lauren Bacall, of all people, pop up. Misery. And taking the top spot in 1990 was a Brat Pack cast. Yes, and when you see the cover of the DVD, you'll see why. It's Flatliners. Now this is of course a great DVD cover, and it has a whole bunch of other films to it. But Flatliners has Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, William Baldwin, and Oliver Platt in it. And they did a remake which had some intriguing ideas that were a little different, but they didn't carry out very well. But see the original Flatliners, click like, subscribe, or even comment below, because I want to hear what you think.
No fair.